My name is Max, and I'm here to introduce you to the world of Formula E. Formula E is the electric equivalent of Formula One racing. It is one of the most competitive sports out there, and it is completely free of fossil fuels. I decided to go to the Monaco E-Prix. Of course, that meant that I had to do a little research beforehand. I'm a big racing fan, but I don't know everything about this. Gaining the information that I have right now, I'm excited to share it with you. I think Formula E is one of the most exciting race formats that we have, and it is a great showing for what the future holds. So, in Formula E, there are 11 teams competing in the championship. Each team has 2 drivers who compete in a drivers' championship. The season consists of 16 races across 10 countries, with most locations hosting 2 races. Formula E is surprisingly competitive. After round 8, there have been 7 different Grand Prix winners, which is quite a feat when you compare it to a sport like F1, which is currently dominated by 1 team and 1 driver. Now, as I said before, there are 11 teams competing, and some of those teams have their own powertrain, which is just a fancy word for engine and everything that goes with it. There are teams like Porsche, Jaguar and Nissan who have their own powertrain, and they are called works teams. And then there are teams who buy the engine from one of those teams, and those are called customer teams. Take for example the Neon McLaren team, which use a Nissan engine. Formula E cars have 350 kilowatts of power in their engines, a top speed of 320 kilometers an hour, which is extremely fast and is actually not that far off from the Formula One cars. All the cars have a cap. During qualifying, the cars can use 350 kilowatts of power, and during the race, 300 kilowatts of power. So, despite there being different manufacturers, engine-wise, the teams are the same, which makes for very competitive racing. And that is perhaps the biggest difference between Formula E and Formula One. So, I went to the Monaco E-Prix to experience what a race day looks like for Formula E. Not only did I get to watch a race, but I got to watch it at one of the most iconic circuits in the world. Most race series spread their sessions out over an entire weekend. Take for example Formula One. They start on Friday, do their qualifying on Saturday and do the race on Sunday. Formula E does it a little bit different. They focus everything on 1 and perhaps 2 days. The day starts with practice sessions. These practice sessions are used by the teams to gather data, and it allows for the teams and for the drivers to kind of get a feel for the track. Usually the practice sessions aren't that exciting, except when there is a little spin or a little accident, like what happened in the E-Prix of Monaco. One of the Neon McLaren drivers had an accident and he had to sit out the rest of the day. The outcome of the practice doesn't say a whole lot, but it does tell you which cars are good, which cars are bad, and also which drivers are good and bad. Now, after practice, there is qualifying, and qualifying is one of the most complicated parts of Formula E, but in my opinion, it's also one of the coolest parts. The 22 drivers are split into 2 groups of 11, and they go at it for around 10 minutes. They each try to set the fastest lap around the circuit. The 4 fastest drivers of that session progress to what is called the duels. Drivers face off 1v1 in a 1 lap, and whoever gets the fastest lap progresses to the semifinals and then to the finals. The winner of the session gets pole position and gets to start in first place. In addition, they get 3 championship points, which can sometimes mean the difference between winning the championship and losing the championship. And then there's the race. The race takes place over a set number of laps. Now, an interesting rule that is not implemented in Formula One is the fact that if there is a safety car or there is a full course yellow, which happens when there has been an incident or when there is something on the track that can cause danger, for every 4 laps that situation is happening, 1 extra lap is added to the race. Why does this matter? Because in Formula E, the biggest concern is running out of power. Power management is the key to Formula E. Laps under the safety car take away that worry. Drivers drive slower and get some of that energy back. So those extra laps keep that competitiveness in there. In Formula E, there are no mandatory pit stops, so any pit stop that is made is to repair the car, change the tire because there's been a puncture, or change the front wing because there's been a collision. Now there is one more factor that really makes Formula E super interesting, and it's called attack mode. Attack mode gives some extra power to the car and allows the car to go faster. Each driver needs to use attack mode for a total of 8 minutes. The specifics of getting attack mode are not revealed until very close to when the race starts, which makes for a bit of unpredictability and forces the teams to adjust their strategy on a very short notice. You get attack mode from going off the racing line in a specific part of the track. Usually it means that getting attack mode means you will get overtaken. That being said, everyone needs to use attack mode, and that extra power allows you to overtake. In the end, whoever crosses the line first is crowned the winner, and they get the maximum amount of points in the championship. Formula E is not only the first motorsport, but also the first major sport to reach net zero carbon. While Formula 1 is pursuing net zero carbon by 2030, Formula E has already reached that, and their slogan is net zero since day zero. The key focuses of Formula E are circular design, high energy efficiency, strict rules for the suppliers, innovations on the batteries, and even a sustainable focus on the manufacture of the chassis and the rubber on the car tires. They are doing everything in their power to make this sport as sustainable as possible. Now, why does that matter? Of course, it matters because of the environment. But why are all these innovations so important for us? Well, like Formula 1 and like all major motorsports, the innovations that we see in the sport make it easier for the consumers to also reach those same innovations. We will get faster charging, more durable batteries that are also better for the environment, not to mention the biggest upside. Innovations in electric cars, or in anything for that matter, makes it so that it becomes cheaper. And that is the biggest step for us. As it stands, a lot of people are shying away from buying electric cars because of the price tag. And innovations in Formula E can drive the price tag down and allow us to drive electric in a very short amount of time.